My name is Bree, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel, Breezy Banter, a place where I talk about the things I want to talk about. In today's video, I wanted to do a deep dive review on some of the indie perfume houses that I have tried. So you're probably not that familiar with me and my content yet, given that I only have a few videos up on my channel, but I really enjoy indie perfumes. I'm into the indie scene for a lot of my hobbies. For example, I've talked before about some of the indie makeup that I'm into, but indie perfumes really have my heart, and that's for a variety of reasons. In today's video, I'm going to discuss what led me to pursuing indie fragrances, and I'm going to talk about three of the, at my last count, 43 houses that I have tried. Over time, I hope to review each of the indie houses that I have tried on my channel. I plan to talk about my experience ordering, my experience actually wearing the perfumes, customer service if it applies, that sort of thing, in order to give you a sense of what you can expect if ordering from these companies. I'm also going to discuss why I decided to pursue indie perfumes. So to give you a sense as to why I decided to get into indie perfumes, I've broadly always just preferred to buy indie if possible, or if it makes sense to. There's several reasons for this. I have consistently found that for the most part, if you do a little bit of research, you're almost always going to get a better product than when you go into a more mainstream store. As another example, there's a local bakery that's just a couple blocks away from me, and I had never really gone there before, but during the pandemic, when people were searching for other sources of food than what they could get at their local supermarket, for example, like loaves of bread, great thing to buy at a bakery. That was when I really decided to check them out. As I'm sure a lot of us saw, there was also a push at that time to really support local business. And so I didn't buy bread all that often before this point in time, but obviously I've had it. It's fine. It's not a big staple in my diet. That said, when I went to the bakery and I saw that their prices were a bit more expensive than what I was used to, I kind of hemmed and hawed over whether or not I should actually purchase it. Before I tried their bread, I really thought that all bread was just kind of the same. Like, you have your white bread, you have your whole wheat bread, maybe you have sort of like a grainy type bread, but beyond that, like, there's really no difference, and certainly not a major taste difference. However, that has not been my experience, and this local bakery is so good. And I go there probably once every 2 weeks to get a loaf of bread, and the people that work there are so kind. They're so appreciative of my patronage, and the experience of buying bread from there is so much more positive than buying from my local supermarket. The taste of the bread, as I said, is incredible. And so is it worth the extra couple dollars for that loaf of bread every 2 weeks? Absolutely it is. And this is just an example as to why I've decided to try to move towards more indie suppliers or indie stores. Around that same time, when the pandemic was happening, I was already into makeup, but I really started getting into indie makeup. My first foray was, I believe, with Cliona Cosmetics, which again, my experience there was just superb, literally no complaints. And so I just had good experience after good experience after good experience dealing with indie stores. And so I started to get into perfumes around that same time. Prior to getting into indie perfumes, I did wear perfumes from mainstream houses. I'm sure, like many of us, I had bottles of perfume from Britney Spears and many others that you could just buy at like Victoria's Secret or Bed Bath & Beyond. But one of the biggest struggles that I had with many of those products was that they did not tend to last on my skin. I could not quite slather myself in it, but I could spray and spray and spray, and it would smell quite strong at first. But after a couple hours, maybe I could myself get a tiny whiff of what I was wearing. This was quite irritating to me. Obviously, I don't want to have to spray myself with tons and tons and tons of perfume just to maybe get a smell of it a couple hours later. It's also quite obnoxious to those around me if I go out immediately after doing so. So because of that, I started to look into the different types of perfume types that one can try. And so most of the perfumes that you can get at, say, Sephora tend to have a alcohol base. There's a lot of discussion as to alcohol-based perfumes versus oil-based perfumes and what the differences are, and so much of it is based on your own personal skin chemistry. That said, by and large, what people tend to say is that alcohol-based perfumes tend to have a wider throw, so you can smell it from further away, but it also tends to dissipate quicker. On the other side, oil-based perfumes tend to wear just much closer to the skin, but they also last and last and last. And so when I read about this, I thought, okay, maybe I'll try some oil-based perfumes. Where can I get those? And as I said, if you go to stores such as Sephora, I don't think there are any oil-based perfumes there, at least not since the last time I checked. That's not to say there aren't, perhaps there are, but by and large, if you're buying like a Tom Ford perfume or a Chanel perfume, or name another perfume brand, you're probably getting an alcohol-based perfume. So this led me to the Indie Makeup and More subreddit on Reddit, and what a world I got myself into. The Indie Makeup and More community is such a good one. Everyone there is so welcoming and they enjoy the hobby, and so that really comes off when you're interacting with others and reading their posts or their comments. And so I spent some time there doing some research to see what houses I wanted to explore. I tend to really enjoy gourmands and vanilla. My ideal situation is basically smelling like a sweet treat, like a cupcake or a cake, or like a tartlet. And so I sought out houses that focused more in that direction. One of the other really great things about the indie perfume community is that there are some houses that if you are searching for a scent that has dirt, for example, not a note that you're typically really going to find anywhere else, there are indie perfumeries that absolutely, they have that note. So you can find some pretty obscure stuff, and that's also part of the fun. You get to experiment and try new things. There might be something that you don't think you like that once you try it, you do. Or sometimes the experience of just trying something new and being like, yep, actually it turns out I don't really like that, can be a lot of fun. So that's a big part of why I decided to pursue this hobby. Another great thing about indie perfumeries is that a lot of them offer sample sizes. So for the most part, if you go again to somewhere like Sephora or your local department store, chances are the smallest size that you can get is a travel size, which might be about 10 mils or a third of an ounce. And that's a lot of perfume to buy at one time, and it will take quite a bit of time to get through it. However, a lot of indie perfumeries will have sample sizes varying between maybe 0.74 mils to 3.4 mils or so, and that just allows you to try a lot more scents, and it won't take you as long to go through it. And as someone who was somewhat familiar with perfumes but didn't quite know exactly what it was that she wanted to smell like, this was a really big perk for me. So now that you have a sense as to why I decided to pursue this hobby, let's talk about the 3 perfume houses that I decided to talk about today. So these 3 were somewhat chosen at random, somewhat not. The first is Firebird Bath & Body. This is the first indie store that I had purchased from. And the next is Twinkle Apothecary. They're the second store that I had purchased from, and there's some drama with them, and there's a reason why I won't purchase from them anymore. And then there's a third store called Death and Floral, which I decided to talk about because they are changing the way that some of their scents will be released. So let's get into it. As I said, the first store that I purchased from is Firebird Bath & Body. Firebird Bath & Body, I think, is a great beginner perfume house. And that's because what you see on the tin is what you get. And by that I mean they tend to have scents that have maybe 3 to 5 notes, and they smell like those 3 to 5 notes. I find with some other houses, they tend to lean more into atmospherics, or they might have a vanilla note that doesn't quite smell like vanilla, or not what one would expect when smelling vanilla. And so that just means when you're reading a description, you might be led astray, not purposefully, but the experience is just different than what you're expecting. That's not the case with Firebird. If a scent says that it has vanilla, chocolate, and cedar, it will smell like vanilla, chocolate, and cedar. And so I think this makes it really great for beginners who might have a sense of what they like. For example, as I said, I tend to really enjoy gourmands and vanilla scents. And so that meant that I kind of I'm pretty sure when I was first purchasing from them, I just did a search on their master scent list for vanilla and then read the rest of the notes and decided whether or not I thought I would like it. And then I bought a few sample packs based on that. And since then, I've full-sized a handful of the perfumes that I've tried. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to tell you the scent name and the scent notes and what I rated it out of 10. And I have a spreadsheet where I keep track of all this information. So the scale that I work with is anything that's an 8, 9, or 10, I consider full sizing. That's not to say I absolutely will full size it, but it's definitely a consideration. A 10 is pretty much always a yes, I should full size this. If it's a 9, it's almost certainly going to be yes, I should full size this. If it's an 8, then it might be a maybe or a yes to full sizing it. If there's a scent that I rate an 8 or 9, it might be that I quite like it that day, but I recognize for myself that I don't want to smell like that regularly. So in that case, it doesn't make sense to full size it. And then anything from a 5 to a 7 is, broadly speaking, I enjoyed it. I'm glad to have tried it. I learned something from the experience, but thank you very much, I'm good. And anything below a 5 is getting into scrubber territory where like I'm not that happy that I tried it, or I don't want to try it again. And I have a handful of perfumes, not that many, and none from the houses that I'm going to discuss today that I rated lower than a 1 because it was so awful and literally all I wanted to do was take like 7 showers. Another point in time, I will talk about those perfumes and those houses. So for Firebird, the first scent that I'll talk about is Black Cocoa. It has the notes chocolate, amber, and cedar, and I rated it an 8 out of 10, and I decided not to full size it. The next is Black Moon. It has the notes smoked lavender, licorice candy, burnt sugar, charred wood, glowing embers. I originally got this as a sample. I rated it 9 out of 10, and I did end up full sizing it. The next scent is Bonfire Cider. It has crushed cider apples, sticky caramel, burning leaves, crisp fall air. I rated it 6 out of 10. There's Cabin with campfire smoke, Virginia cedar, fir needle, which I rated 6 out of 10. There's Cake, which is sugared vanilla, lemon zest, almond, and cake. I gave it 10 out of 10, and I full sized it. Next is Campfire, which has maple sugar, charred marshmallow, smoky firewood. I rated it 8 out of 10, and I full sized it. Next is Cardamom Spruce. This has cardamom, caramelized sugar, cocoa. I gave it 4 out of 10. Next is Cinders. It's wood smoke, burning leaves, and beeswax. I gave it 5 out of 10. There's Elixir, which is black coffee, dark cocoa, cardamom, ginger, cassia, raw sugar, not sure how to pronounce this word, vetiver, which I gave 8 out of 10, and I ended up full sizing it. There's Fireplace, which has burning wood, soot, blood orange, clove, incense. Gave this 7 out of 10. Frangipane, which has pistachio paste, almond cookie, vanilla cream, caramel. I rated it 10 out of 10, and I full sized it. Ginger Ale, bright citrus, fresh ginger, fizz, 8 out of 10. Ginger Bourbon, ginger, wet tobacco, lime. I gave this 8 out of 10. Grapefruit soda, grapefruit, peach nectar, soda bubbles, 7 out of 10. Lavender milk, lavender, vanilla, coconut milk, sugared musk, gave it 10 out of 10. Lavender wood, lavender, cedar, sandalwood, I gave it 7 out of 10. Nectar, sun-warmed honey, beeswax, apricot nectar, vanilla pod, hay, a drop of clove. I gave it 8 out of 10, and I full sized it. Peach tea, it's fuzzy peach, iced tea, honeysuckle. I rated it 4 out of 10. Salt water, ocean water, salt air, driftwood, and I rated it 9 out of 10, and I full sized it. Spellbound, pumpkin cake, vanilla, lavender buds, maple, tonka, amber. I rated it 10 out of 10, and I full sized it. Tobacco honey, pipe tobacco, honey, smoked tea. I rated it 6 out of 10. Vanilla amber, sweet vanilla, cardamom, sandalwood. I rated it 9 out of 10, and I full sized it. Vanilla bergamot, lemon peel, black tea, vanilla, sandalwood, amber. I rated it 8 out of 10. vanilla cedar, vanilla, clove, cedar, patchouli, dark woods incense. I rated it 8 out of 10. Vanilla sea salt, vanilla, coconut water, tropical citrus, salty sea spray. I rated this 9 out of 10. Watermelon mint, watermelon, cantaloupe, fresh mint. I rated this 7 out of 10. Winter stars, Bulgarian lavender, crushed candy cane, tonka. I rated this 7 out of 10. And lastly, wood smoke and vanilla has firewood, fir needle, vanilla. I rated it 7 out of 10. So to summarize, the ones that I ended up full-sizing include Black Moon, Cake, Campfire, Elixir, Frangipane, Nectar, Saltwater, Spellbound, Vanilla Amber. That's it. As I said, I think Firebird is great for beginners because none of these scents are too complicated, and I think a lot of the notes are typical, but that's not to say that they're all typical. So there are some notes in here that are just a bit different. So if somebody was seeking to experiment, I think they can still do so. Also, Firebird has several masculine or androgynous scents. Of course, anyone can wear whatever perfume it is that they want to wear, but say you are searching for a partner and they tend to enjoy masculine scents, there are some available on Firebird's website. I would typically recommend Firebird also to people who quite enjoy foresty notes. So some of the scents that I tried had notes such as cedar or fir needle or pine. I don't tend to enjoy those notes, so I liked those scents quite a bit less. But I do think if that's what you're into, Firebird delivers in spades. I also think Firebird has a quite nice smoke note. I find smoky notes or incense can be really overwhelming, and so I tend to stay away from them. But some of the scents that I tried that have smoke or incense notes, I ended up quite liking because I find that they're much more subtle. My understanding is that incense notes in particular tend to develop over time. And so it's possible that that might be why they seemed a bit softer to me, because I tried the perfumes that I had bought so soon after I had bought them. But it's difficult for me to imagine that they would have developed to the point of overtaking the perfume. So my favorite perfume from this set is Lavender Milk. It's one that I gave 10 out of 10 to, and I'm really sad about it because this one has been out of stock for years. As you might have picked up as I was going through this list, I rated it 10 out of 10, but I didn't full size it. And that's because after I'd finished my sample, I was like, yes, I absolutely want to full size this. And I went to do so, and it was out of stock. And that's fine, it happens. It was also during COVID, so there's lots of supply issues, all of that, I get it. But it's probably been well over 2 years, probably coming up on like 3.5, maybe even 4 years since I purchased from them, and it's still out of stock. So I've also inquired as to why this would be, like if there's plans for the scent to come back. I've never gotten a response. So if it does come back, then I do plan on full sizing it. If it doesn't, then that's a tragedy for everyone involved who might be interested in this perfume. It is absolutely incredible. In terms of pricing, it's also a bit sad to me because at the time, one of the other reasons that I thought Firebird would be a great place to start as a beginner is because they were definitely on the cheaper end of things. The 0.3 ounce or 9 ml bottles that I had bought at the time, I believe were $12 each. And they've gone up since then to $21. I understand that there's all sorts of inflation and whatnot that's impacting prices. That's a pretty significant price increase. It's almost 100%. It almost doubled in price. I believe the price of their 6-pack of 1 ml samples was also the same price as the 9 ml full bottle. So I believe they were around $12. And since then they've increased in price to $17. All of that being said, while this perfumery has increased their prices, I do find that they're still quite competitive with other shops. So I think it is still a great option for beginners. It's just less of a great option than it was before. In terms of shipping, their turnaround time is very clearly listed on the website. It currently says that their turnaround time is 3 to 5 business days. If you're not familiar with turnaround time, it's the time in which it takes the shop that you're buying from to ship your product. It does not include the shipping time itself. And so what that means is if you purchase product on Monday, it probably means in this case that it would ship out by the following Monday. 5 days is a bit ambiguous if it includes the day that you order. I suspect that it doesn't. I purchased from them several times, and each time they shipped within the stated turnaround time. So I had no issues on that front. One other thing worth mentioning is you might have noticed that the store is called Firebird Bath & Body. So they also have other products. They sell lip products and they have bath products. I believe they might even have candles. And I haven't tried any of those, but I suspect that they are just as lovely as the perfumes that they sell. Also, it might be worth mentioning that in all of the orders that I placed, I never received free samples. This isn't something that I really consider when purchasing from a brand or not. I just know that for some people that matters a lot and they can come to expect it from indie shops. That said, I'm mentioning it for full transparency and just so others are aware. And that's also not to say that you would never receive a free sample, just that I ordered from them several times and never did. If I rated Firebird as a store, I would say 10 out of 10. I think it's very clear what you're getting. Turnaround time is very clearly stated. Never had any issues. It's just straightforward. So in terms of my verdict as to whether or not I would recommend Firebird to other people seeking to get into indie perfumes or explore a new house that perhaps they haven't, my verdict is absolutely yes, I highly recommend it. The next steps that I want to talk about is Twinkle Apothecary. And I'll be upfront and just say that at this point in time, I will not consider purchasing from them again in the future. I'll talk about why that is in a bit. But first, let's talk about what I ordered. So I placed an order for a Discovery sample set, which included 6 1.8 ml samples by choosing, and then I received 1 free sample in that order. So the first scent is basic. It has vanilla, sweet orange, lavender, and lemon. I gave it 8 out of 10. Next is date night. It's warm, spicy, sweet, rosy, and extremely tenacious with an earthy, powdery dry down without being too much. I gave this 3 out of 10. Next is island spice. It's a warm, sweet, tropical inspired scent with notes of coconut, melon, ginger, vanilla, banana, custard, and a hint of cinnamon. Then lavender latte, a clean yet cozy blend of lavender, roasted coffee bean, tonka bean, and balsam of Peru oils and a base of organic grape alcohol. I gave this 3 out of 10. And sorry, I'm not sure if I gave the rating for island spice. I gave it 5 out of 10. Then there's number 9, which I received as a free sample. It says bright citrus notes, lemon, yuzu, lemongrass, mingle with warm spices and the melon-like top notes of galangal root to create an aldehydic, fruity burst of sweetness that's somewhat reminiscent of bubblegum. This candied, youthful quality is short-lived, although the bright tropical warmth lingers, making way for a classic, rich, white floral bouquet. A soft yet rich, woody base supports and balances these over-the-top florals, leaving a grounded, subtly creamy finish that radiates off the skin. That's an incredible description. I ended up giving this 3 out of 10. Next is stress baking. It says warm vanilla, bright cinnamon, creamy sweet ylang ylang, honeyed champaka, nutty almond and sandalwood, buttery coconut, and a punch nutmeg. I also rated this 3 out of 10. As you can see, I did not have a lot of luck with the scents themselves. Some of this is because I was very early on in my journey and I didn't yet know that I have skin sensitivities to cinnamon and nutmeg and some other spices, but in particular those two. That's not uncommon. Many people do have skin sensitivities to those spices. And so I think there's at least 2, but perhaps even 3 or 4 that have those notes. And that just made the initial application quite unpleasant. That said, I rate scents based on how it actually smells, not how it feels. So that wasn't even taken into consideration when I gave my rating. And just so you're aware, when I put cinnamon or nutmeg on my skin, what basically happens is it turns quite red and irritated, and then maybe after 30 minutes or so, it goes away and it's not irritated anymore, but it can be quite obnoxious while that's happening. And there are some scents that I've tried that have cinnamon and nutmeg, and I do end up quite enjoying them. But that is worth mentioning, that if you have skin sensitivities, you might want to stay away from these ones. So based on the descriptions, I really expected to have a great deal of success with these scents, but unfortunately, as you can see, I didn't. In terms of shipping, I believe I placed an order, it shipped out the next day, and it might have been delivered like 2 or 3 days later, so it was very, very quick. I can't remember what the stated turnaround time was on their website at the time, but it was certainly within whatever it was that they said. And of course, I appreciate the free sample. Again, I don't expect it, but it is quite nice. So now let's talk about why I don't plan on ever purchasing from them in the future. If you're not familiar, Twinkle Apothecary sells other products than just perfumes, including things such as makeup. And if you're not aware, and several years ago, it sounds like the owner of the store raised her prices from $40 for one of her products to $100 overnight. So as we discussed with Firebird, like going from $12 to $21 is quite a lot, but going from $40 to $100 overnight is hard to fathom. Let's put it that way. I'm not aware of any amount of inflation that calls for over doubling the price of a product. So I'm going to read you a comment from a person that sent an email, and then I'll read you the response from the owner of the store. So the first email from a customer to the store reads, "I hope this email finds you well. I've noticed that the prices for your items has more than doubled since last year. I wanted to buy a set of eye tints, but I noticed that last year they were $40 and this year they're almost $100. I do think it's good that you increase the prices for them, though. $40 for 3 marvelous products was shortchanging yourself. While I can appreciate that you're charging more for your high quality products and your time, I'm just surprised that they've jumped that much. For a moment, I thought my browser was set to like Canada or something. I've read your FAQ and gone through some updates and tried to find why they've increased, but I didn't find anything. I can think of a few reasons why: business reevaluating, rent increases, supply chain disruptions, charging more for production and time, etc. When you have some time, can you write back and let me know additional reasons? I'm not asking for a discount or anything. I just really love your eye tints, but I'm sort of balking at the massive increase. $30-ish for one is definitely on the higher end of things, like brand name, and around $25 with a coupon. But I know you're a one-woman business who has to pay rent and put food on the table, and I can respect raising your prices. I'm a repeat customer who still has many of your perfumes on my shelf, and I hope you don't mind that I typed out this email expressing some of my thoughts. Thank you for your time." So that's the original email that was sent to the owner, and I suspect many people would agree with me that that's a very kind email. They're inquiring about a huge price increase. They're doing so respectfully. They're not accusing them. They say they can even come up with some reasons themselves as to why one might do that, and they just want to know more. So the owner of Twinkle Apothecary made a post on Instagram. I won't include all of it here, but her caption was, "Get out of here with that broke energy while you're shopping handmade, because this one person brand does have to put food on the table, Jan. If it's helpful, just think of Twinkle Apothecary as a brand name going forward." And then there have been several exchanges on that Instagram post that she made, both between some other customers and the owner, as well as the customer that originally sent the email and the owner. And I think it just gets worse and worse. The idea of telling a customer who has purchased several of your products, they say that they're a repeat customer, they're inquiring as to why something that they bought for $40 before is now $100, and your response is to tell them to get out of here with that broke energy, rubs me the wrong way. I'm not the person that sent this email, but in solidarity with her, I don't think it's appropriate for a brand owner to respond in that way. I think the vast majority of us work quite hard for our money, and inquiring politely to hear the reason as to why a significant price increase has happened is perfectly reasonable. This just screams not appreciating your customers or not valuing the people who keep you in business. That's not to say that brand owners have to trip and fall over themselves to cater to their customers, but I think responding to the questions that were asked in a respectful way is reasonable to expect. Having an Instagram post made specifically because you were inquiring as to why there was such a large price increase is so unnecessary, and that just really rubs me the wrong way, and I don't want to support it. So going forward, I will not be purchasing from Twinkle Apothecary. So I'm unsure if I mentioned this at the beginning of this section, but I purchased that sample set and it was $18 at the time. It looks like they might not sell it anymore. When I checked their website, they do sell 1 ml samples, which is smaller than the size that I bought, but they're charging $5 for that one sample. So I suspect that their prices for perfumes have gone up since then, because as I mentioned, the samples that I got were 1.8 mil. There were 6 of them for $18, so it cost about $3 per 1.8 mil sample. Now they're charging $5 for a 1 mil sample. So I've noticed that I've been recording for quite a long time, and I had originally said that I was going to talk about 3 perfume houses, the last one being Death and Floral. In the interest of making this a reasonable video, I'll talk about Death and Floral next time. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. Before we go, I'd love to hear from you if there are any indie perfume houses that you have tried and loved or hated or thought were just average, or if there are any that you want me to cover next in addition to Death and Floral. And before I go, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video, and I hope you'll be back again soon. Bye!